Good morning, everyone. My name is Rebecca Wardlow. I'm the chair for the PhD in Education program. And today I have the honor of introducing our first speaker, Dr. Kimberly Nelms, Smarr, an alumnus of the Organizational Development and Leadership program from 2016. I know you will enjoy her presentation entitled Diversity and Inclusion of African American Women in Ministry Leadership. If you would please use the Zoom chat feature for any questions or comments for the presenter. At the end of the 20 minutes or so of the presentation, we will have the opportunity to answer any questions and interact with Kimberly. So with that, I am honored to welcome Kimberly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that welcome and introduction. I am, of course, Dr. Kimberly Nelms, Smarr, and I'm going to speak with you today regarding gender diversity and inclusion of African American women in leadership. Consider these words: discrimination, jealousy, self-worth, resistance, hurt, self-pity, disdain, isolation, sadness and sorrow, self-worth and self-doubt, upset, depression, devastation, forgiveness, grateful, humble, growth, and freedom. These are few of the experiences of African American women who hold positions of clergy, including pastors, ministers, missionaries, and deaconess. And this is why I give applause to these women who have treaded the path for other women in ministry leadership. I am Dr. Kimberly Nelms Smarr. My doctorate of psychology was attained from the University of the Rockies in criminal justice studies and organizational leadership. I also hold a master's of business administration from Ashford University and a bachelor's of business administration from the University of St. Thomas. It is my purpose to assist leaders with the tools necessary to effectively operate an organization of excellence. With over 20 years of developing nonprofit organizations, creating executive structures, and training executive leadership staff, I aid leaders in the area of developing organizational structure, enabling organizational growth, transferring leadership vision to leadership staff, maximizing organizational performance, and ensuring ethical and legal organizational standards. And yes, I am an African American clergywoman. In addition to assisting organizational leaders, I bring alive the contents of text into real-world experiences as a psychology professor for several colleges, to include Houston Baptist University, Grand Canyon University, Azusa Pacific University, as well as Houston Community College. Diversity and inclusion of African American women in leadership have been my philosophy focus, which can be evident by the publication of my dissertation entitled Female Leadership in NPOs, a phenomenological study of how African American clergywomen experience their obstacles in ministry leadership. It is also evident by the most recent article entitled Gender and Race in Ministry Leadership, the Experiences of Black Clergywomen, that has been published in Religion's Journal 2018. The purpose of this presentation is to bring attention to the obstacles of African American clergywomen. I also aim to share the exploration into how African American clergywomen felt about the obstacles they experienced in leadership. Clergywomen, despite the fact of advancements into ministerial occupations, experience obstacles in ministry leadership. Women in clergy power continue to be controlled by religious mandates and male-regulated rules that uphold the advancement of men in ministry leadership. One reason for the unrelenting continuance of prejudice is the persistent consideration that clergywomen are subordinate to men. When the views of how African American clergywomen experience obstacles, when they are neglected, the credibility of female spiritual guidance, and the loyalty of church members are negatively impacted. Without the study into their experiences, clergywomen remain subjected to actual prejudiced behavior and exposed to opposition of congregants. I would like to share with you the education and employment as well as sexism and racism experienced by African American clergywomen. These women who complete seminary training have not experienced employment opportunities that have been offered to African American men who also finish theological education. Despite their advancement in education, many African American women have continued to be excluded from ministerial positions such as pastors. Due to the perception that pastoral roles have been reserved for men, the church predominantly has accepted women in the roles of evangelists, missionaries, and ministry administrators. This imbalance of ministry employment among African American clergymen and African American clergywomen has made it challenging for these women to find ministerial jobs. Regarding sexism and racism, sexism has been the result of the stigma that women have been created to be wives and mothers. Many clergymen have debated that women have lacked proficiency and have not qualified to be credible leaders. Although clergywomen have increased in substantial amounts, they have discovered that sexism has not been limited to societal discrimination. Chauvinism has also occurred in church organizations. The method that was utilized was a qualitative transcendental phenomenological study. This study was conducted applying qualitative transcendental phenomenology founded by Herschel and modified into a qualitative method by Mustakas. This study was conducted using phenomenological data analysis founded by Van Kom and modified by Mustakas. The methodology included and involved a face-to-face, in-depth, semi-structured interview process, utilizing specific questions that captured the participants' experiences regarding obstacles in ministry leadership. It also utilized observational journals in order to notate the nonverbal expressions of feelings and to check definitions of terms that the participants used in their interviews. The two dominant interview questions were, what are the lived experiences of African American clergywomen regarding obstacles in ministry leadership? And the second research question was, how do African American clergywomen ascribe meaning to their lived experiences regarding obstacles in ministry leadership? The questions were divided into three sections: the opening, central, and closing. The opening consisted of asking the participants what were the initials of their name, what were their role in clergy, what was their denominational Protestant church, and how long they had been in ministry leadership. The central questions, which I found interesting, were, what obstacles have you experienced in ministry leadership? What has been your experience regarding the obstacles in ministry leadership? How do you attribute meaning to those experiences? And how would you describe your ministry style? In their perception, how have your experiences regarding obstacles influenced your ministry style? And in your perception, how have your experiences regarding obstacles in ministry influenced your self-worth? The two closing questions were, in your perception, what needs to happen in clergy hierarchy in order to remove obstacles in ministry leadership so you can fully engage as a clergywoman? And the last closing question was, what more can you tell me about the experiences regarding obstacles in ministry leadership and how you attribute meaning to your experiences? The interview results indicated, first, that African American clergywomen experienced many forms of restraints and rejection. One participant shared that clergy leaders demanded that I was to stay a deaconess, a choir leader, or an usher. I could be an evangelist, but I could not be a minister. The second result of the interview indicated advantages of reassurance and gratefulness at how they were chosen for ministry leadership by God. The second indication also identified disadvantages of isolation and resistance at how they were rejected for ministry leadership by clergymen. One participant shared, this was very interesting, that advantages of her experiences was an increase in her self-worth. She also explained that embracing and expecting obstacles were empowering and reassuring of her ministerial assignment. Another participant shared disadvantages of her experiences with restraint and rejection as experiences of self-doubt and self-worth decrease, obscurity, sadness and sorrow, depression and resistance. Lastly, the results indicated that African American clergywomen proposed the unity of clergymen and clergywomen. One participant stated, "What could have been a handicap motivated me to be strong in the area that I was allowed to work. How much more could we accomplish if we all come together in oneness?" Another participant stated, "Now I can say I don't regret the challenges because it is basically what has gotten me to where I am today." Those that have overcome these challenges need to share their experiences with each other. Other recommendations for addressing and improving the perception included allowing ministry opportunities, having more husband and wife ministry teams, having male support in the home, including and increasing books and televisions and workshops that would educate regarding African American and female clergy. I would conclude with this. Gender bias of clergywomen exists among clergymen. However, the clergywomen believed that their obstacles were the best thing that happened to them, and their obstacles are considered to be experiences to embrace. As stated by Maya Angelou, in diversity there is beauty, and in diversity there is strength. I would like to say, in concluding, thank you for this opportunity to give voice to African American clergywomen regarding gender diversity and inclusion in ministry leadership. I've placed here my contact information if you have any more questions, but if not, let's go into it right now with more questions or any questions and answers. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Kimberly. That was fabulous and fascinating information. And you do have a few questions in here, and I guess I can go ahead and read those. A lot of agreement, people who have experienced the same thing. There was one question about, did you see it as being specific to any unique denominations?
Awesome. I found it very unique that I interviewed females from different Protestant churches. So I had Baptist women, Pentecostal, Church of God in Christ, and predominantly holiness or non-denominational ministries. And different age ranges also. I found that from the younger in their 20s to those in their 80s, added similar experiences regarding rejection as a female minister.
Isn't that discouraging in some ways that it is the same?
Yeah.
And agreement that a colleague that is involved in the Baptist church absolutely sees that occurring today there as well. The young boys are welcome in very early, and the women are not as much. There's a question from Dr. Sundstrom. Would you have any interest in following this up to find out what the opinions or perspectives of the male clergy, African American male clergymen are?
That is a very strong interest to hear from their side. Maybe they're aware, maybe not, of the prejudice that may be reflected through their subordinate type of denominating of the females, or maybe they are aware and it's just been an area that's secluded for them. Interestingly, I had an elder female African-American clergywoman who was a part of the participant, and she said, you have to understand where our people come from. For men, being in clergy was their zone, was their respected space. That's all they had. And so now to allow females to come into that secluded club, if you would like to refer to it, that secluded connection is challenging for them to share that platform.
Very interesting. I wonder how many other male-dominated careers feel that same way. If you think historically about armed forces and even police or firemen or things, that if they also feel that women are intruding on their domain or their area.
Right.
And there was a question about using phenomenology. How was that? Why was that the right method for you? And would you use that same method again?
Yes, I would use that method again. I felt that it was the most relevant to understanding the actual lived experiences of the participants, the African American clergywomen. It allowed an opportunity to see, what are you experiencing? And secondly, which is mainly, what is the meaning that you attribute to that? It was amazing that they've gone through the similar obstacles, but some considered it an embrace, some considered it an increase in their self-worth, while that same experience for some was defeating and depressing, and for one female, to the point of suicide. So I believe that the transcendental phenomenological study allowed me to really feel their experiences based on their personal attachment to that meaning.
Fascinating. And Kimberly, would you share a little bit more about your own personal journey through this process and what you learned during the dissertation and what you felt was the hardest part? What kind of advice you might have for students who are listening in, who are in the midst of this?
Yes, if there are any students listening, believe me when I say it may not be easy, but it will be worth it. I had the great support of my dissertation chair, and you will need that. You'll need someone who you can go to when you feel a little discouraged, when you feel like throwing the computer against the wall and saying, this is it, it's done. I can be at the ABD, almost have received a doctorate. But no, I encourage you to stay with it. Choose a topic that is passionate for you. And in those times of discouragement, it will drive you to continue through the process. Of course, I said it won't be easy, but it will pull out the best in you that you may not have known was inside of you.
And given that it's been a couple years since you have graduated and you appear to have had many, many great successes with your career since then, what kinds of opportunities have you been able to embrace since graduation?
Great, thank you. Within August, September, so within 2 months of graduation, I had the opportunity to be a part of the faculty of a college here where I am in Houston. And from there, that open door just continued to allow more opportunities. I've also had the ability to, at Houston Baptist University, to do a presentation about gender and inclusion. So I'm believing that I want you to believe that your results will pay off. It may be trying or challenging, but once you get that first opportunity, I believe doors will open for you. I was not interested. I never had thought of being a psychology professor, but I give accolades to my dissertation chair. She said, Kimberly, why don't you go into education? I was, no, that's not me. But I'm glad that I trusted her word, because it is so fulfilling to learn from others and to share my experiences for the students. I'm totally enjoying this journey.
And we did talk when we met previously about the fact that you are teaching at a number of different universities, and I know our students frequently express interest in that. How did you go about acquiring that first opportunity, and how have the others come about?
Good question. It is work, looking for work in the field of being a professor. You must narrow down, do your search, see who's in, has the subjects that you're interested in, pursue, send out applications, cover letters, reach out to the deans, reach out to the department chairs, ask others that you may know. Do you know of a college that's looking for faculty, whether it's adjunct or full-time? And just don't lose the pursuit. Let that passion for what you want to do drive you until you achieve what you want to achieve.
Very impressive, and obviously you have done that and are the model for us as faculty members of a great success, and for our students as well. And we so appreciate you sharing your wisdom and experiences today.
Rebecca, I wasn't sure if if you saw the question that Suraj asked very early on about just wondering whether or not you were going to discuss it. Are there denominations that are worse offenders than others, and any idea why?
I found that within the Protestant church, those that I spoke with had similar challenges. I must say there was one out of 9 that said she never had any challenges. And when I gave thought to it, the other 8 were leaders, pastors, ministers, apostles, whereas this one female was a deaconess within her denomination in the Baptist church. So she stated in the interview, I haven't had challenges because I do what I'm told to do. I stay in the realm they tell me to stay in. And I felt that was her safety, where the others were more dominant in the pulpit before people. So they received more of the obstacles. So as far as the Protestant denominations of the women I spoke to, they all had similar experiences, but their response to and the meaning of those experiences somewhat differed.